Obsession is not love. Ivy Wangechi was unfortunate enough to experience this, and tragically, her kind-hearted nature would lead her into the hands of a violent monster. Ivy turned down the love of a childhood friend she had known most of her life, possibly because she saw him as a brother and friend, but sadly she would find quite the opposite. Habari, and welcome to another story, a true crime and strange cases channel. Please consider subscribing to help me out. This being the first case story, it is chilling and involves unrequited love, obsession, and a crazed stalker. Our story starts in the country of Kenya, famed for its beautiful scenic landscapes and vast wildlife preserves. The people of Kenya are known to be group-orientated rather than individualistic. Harambee defines the people's approach to others in life. It is an illusion of teamwork and valuing community before the individual. The country is home to the world-famous Masai Mara, which hosts an annual wildebeest migration and where you can find the Big Five: the lion, the elephant, the leopard, the rhino, and the buffalo. Our story today starts in the commercial and industrial town of Thika, well known for its production of textiles and the manufacturing of matches and tin plate cans, and specializes in fruit canning, notably pineapples. Thika, with an estimated population of 279,000, is viewed as an attractive place to live and raise a family. Here we find the family of Ivy Wangechi, made up of father and mother, Wainaina and Winfred King Ori, and their 3 children, with Ivy as the firstborn child in the family. Ivy studied medicine at the Moi University in Eldoret, a distance of 352 kilometers from her home in Thika, after she garnered straight A's in her final high school exam in one of the country's top girls' high school. Ivy was academically gifted, and her ability to perform and excel in her passions made her parents immensely proud. Full of charisma and positivity, she was considered a mentor and caretaker to her mother, and siblings and neighbors recalled her as an upright student because of her strong performance in school. Because of her excellent performance in high school, she was able to join Moi University to study medicine, which unfortunately is where her fateful encounter integral to our story takes place. Before joining high school, she had attended Bishop Njuguna Academy in her hometown, where it is believed she met her would-be killer. 9th April 2019 started normally for the medical student in Moi University. However, it would turn tragic and shock the whole country. Ivy had just finished her ward rounds at Moi Technical Referral Hospital when she received a text from a friend enticing her to come out. Things would turn tragic minutes later. Ivy walked out of the institution's compound in broad daylight to meet up with the male friend who had originally texted her. As they met, the male friend pulled out an axe out of a sack that he had carried with him and struck Ivy on the head, which led to her falling to the ground. He continued his outrageous attack by using the axe to cut the medical trainee in the head before taking out a knife and slitting her throat. In the space of a few short minutes, a brutal and twisted traveler had turned an aspiring achiever's dreams into ashes because of his selfish, out-of-control needs, and would forever haunt both their families. A day before Ivy's birthday, a lone traveler left his morning shift at work, and his colleagues said he seemed stress-free. He would embark on a journey to Eldoret after Ivy had failed to pick up his calls. He had with him a sharpened axe and knife in the car and headed straight to the university. He would arrive at the institution and parked at the university's hospital emergency section, waiting for her to finish her morning ward rounds at the university hospital. As he waited, he saw her in the company of another man, and in his rage he imagined that she did not pick up his call because she had been sleeping with the man. He got the axe and knife out of the car and headed straight to where she stood. As they met, it is not known if they had a chat or not, before the lone traveler unleashed a vicious, unwarranted attack on her. He pulled out an axe out of a sack that he had carried with him and hit Ivy on the head, which led to her falling to the ground. He continued his outrageous assault by using the axe to cut the trainee in the head before taking out a knife and slitting her throat. Shocked witnesses who had viewed the attack and were initially rushing to the scene to rescue her scampered away in fear as he threatened them using the axe. He ensured she was dead before fleeing the scene, but his escape was halted by Boda Boda operators who caught up with him and mobbed up. He was rescued by police and hospitalized at the same hospital that Ivy worked at, and she would also be rushed to, but would unfortunately die after doctors tried saving her life. Police arrested Naftali Kinuthia, the lone traveler, and commenced investigations into the senseless murder. Police would later say he reclaimed his senses while at the hospital, and he was told of Ivy's death. News of the heinous crime spread all over the country, and sadly reached Ivy's parents, who received the news about their daughter's death, were mortified when they realized that her murderer was someone they knew. Naftali was actually family friends with Ivy's family and had visited them severally in the past. Naftali Kinuthia comes from a popular business family in Thika town, with a thriving business empire started by his grandfather, who owns apartments and a bookshop within the same town. Naftali is believed to have met Ivy at Bishop Njuguna Academy after his family moved from Nakuru to Thika after the 2007-2008 post-election violence that had plagued the country. He would work in Nairobi at a leading city betting firm after completing his software graduate course, and his colleagues described him as a quiet man who neither smoked nor drank alcohol. He would be further described as reclusive by relatives. Naftali had grown fond of Ivy since their days in primary school, and as expected, would have a childhood crush on her. He had tried over a long period of time after high school to woo Ivy by buying expensive gifts and spending lavishly on her. He claimed that they got into an intimate relationship while he worked in Nairobi, and used to visit her at her university and at times supported her financially. However, according to his mother, he had expressed frustrations and revealed how Ivy had disappointed him and had turned disrespectful and abusive to her son. Like any caring mother, she advised him to stop pursuing her and end the relationship. She thought her son had cut links with Ivy since months had passed, without hearing him complain about or bring her up. However, his friends claim he was determined to be with her and even wanted to marry her. Ivy's 25th birthday was on the 10th of April, the day after she was murdered, and preparations were underway, and the party would cost 28,000 Kenya shillings. 5 days before the attack, Naftali had gone to Ivy's hostel unannounced and wanted to talk to her in his car, but she was afraid and rushed back to the hostel to get away from him. He further claimed he had sent her half of the party's actual cost and wanted to give her the other half once he arrived in Eldoret for the party. His father would visit him in the hospital, and Naftali would tell him that he could not believe that he had killed Ivy. He was remanded in an Eldoret prison as police conducted investigations and impounded the car he had traveled with to commit the murder. He would also confess to a detective, claiming he had invested money and emotions in Ivy, but his financial kindness and love was not reciprocated as he expected. Naftali would appear before a judge in court and denied killing Ivy after being formally charged with her murder. The prosecution provided medical tests indicating that Naftali was fit for trial after undergoing mental assessment. An autopsy done on the deceased showed she suffered deep cuts on the left side of her head and neck, which led to loss of blood. Ivy's friends would testify against Naftali in court, said Ivy had on several occasions refused to give in to his love advances. Ivy would block him on her phone, but he would send texts to her friends to forward to her. He progressed into sending threatening messages to Ivy and a few of her friends, threatening to get revenge for spending money on her. In court, a witness who asked the court to protect her identity, testified that Naftali had been constantly nagging and caused stressing Ivy to enter into a love relationship with him, yet she was not interested, and that they were never lovers, and was forcing Ivy into a love relationship by enticing her with gifts. He had demanded a refund of the amount that he had been spending on her, amounting to 200,000 Kenya shillings. She went on to testify that he had even threatened to go to Ivy's mother to get a refund of the money he had in the past, at a birthday party in Westlands, Nairobi, footed the bill to their surprise without anyone requesting him to. That night, he had tried to get Ivy to go with him to his house for the night, but she had declined. Ivy would be buried 9 days after her brutal attack, and her funeral was attended by family, friends, and residents of her hometown. Tears flowed freely as she was laid to rest. All this evidence against Naftali would unfortunately make it excruciating for Ivy's family and friends, as the wheels of justice was slow. 3 years after her murder, the case was still dragging in court with no end in sight due to continuous postponements, mostly from the defense team. Naftali's defense team had on various occasions tried to have him released on bond, but the court declined since he was deemed a flight risk. Naftali's defense team offered hurdles, for instance. His lawyer withdrew from the case, citing frustrations from the defendant, and the High Court judge directed he be appointed another lawyer to fast-track the case.
Naftali Kinuthia, the suspect in the murder of Moi University medical student Ivy Wangechi on the 9th of April 2019, has been convicted of murder.
Fortunately for Ivy's family, the court had a hearing, and the defense team told the court that they had no witnesses and would take only 1 day to complete the case, after the prosecution team had over 10 witnesses testifying against the defendant. Kinuthia would reveal to the court that he was provoked after Ivy, with whom he alleges to have been romantically involved with, had ended their relationship and eloped with another man. He went ahead to confess that the broad daylight attack on Ivy was an act of provocation, because he was overwhelmed with rage, fearing that his childhood friend had betrayed him. He went on to tell the court that he was remorseful for ending Ivy's life. Naftali awaited the ruling on his case, and on the 26th of October, 2023, almost 5 years after Ivy's murder, Kinuthia was found guilty, and the judge ruled that the prosecution had proven the offense of murder beyond reasonable doubt. His fate will be decided sometime in November 2023, after the court hears Kinuthia's mitigation. Even though Ivy had unreciprocated Naftali's love, there was nothing that justified his twisted actions in attacking a defenseless Ivy in broad daylight, in a brutal and senseless attack. The sheer macabre manner of the murder makes Ivy's family hope for an end to their cry for justice and help in securing the judge's final decision, as no person should have the right to walk free after such an act. Being self-driven and focused, Ivy was on the verge of graduating, as she was on her final year of medical school, and set to have a better future for herself, only for it to be ripped away by a selfish man who would not take no for an answer. Her family and friends will greatly miss her. Asante for taking your time to watch this story today by Another Story. I hope to see you again in another video again very soon. Stay blessed and thank you.